All right, Kevin Kane, Grapes of Wrath. How's it going with the group? You guys got a new album coming out in October.
Yeah, well, it's a compilation of all our singles with two new songs, and those two songs will also be on our upcoming album in February of all new songs.
And I've happened to hear "Good to See You," and this song sounds very fresh. I'm sure you've had your part in producing this.
Well, yeah, we worked as a band. I got to play on it and sing on it. It's Tom's song. I mean, he and I each brought in a bunch of songs, and then we sort of voted as a band what songs we thought worked well together to make up an album, and there you have it.
And then you guys got tour dates for Canada lined up.
Yeah, we got a few doing three out west with our friends 5440, and then we've got four shows in Ontario, and then we have in the new year we'll be going out and touring more earnestly in support of the new album.
Would you say in the years the touring industry changed a lot, or how is it in your eyes?
Yeah, well, it's certainly a different situation than the music business was, when we were starting out, and a lot of that has to do with we're different people. We're not kids anymore, and there's other things going on in our lives and whatnot. So, yeah, it's a number of factors. Let's just say we're less inclined to be thrilled about sleeping on the floor of a club after we played than we once were.
Yeah.
But and as far as how the industry's changing, I mean, yeah, you could go on and on about it with labels firing 95% of their, of their workforce compared to say the mid 90s to merging with the latest buyout of Universal taking on EMI to, all sorts of factors. How people get their music, how people hear about music.
Because nowadays it's like the FM radio business is not promoting as much the newer songs. Would it be like that?
Yeah, you're probably right. It's a tough one. I saw a cartoon where an A&R man sitting there with the band, and he goes, "Yeah, the album's good, but I don't hear a commercial." As opposed to I don't hear a single. Placements have become kind of like the new radio. Radio, as far as I've seen, radio does tend to play more comfortable, reassuring music compared to what they once did. There doesn't seem to be the excitement, and that holds true for anybody. Tom Petty has said that he doesn't have a hope of getting on the radio now, and people like that. It is strange. It's really peculiar. And I do hear people talk about this song that they heard in a commercial or on a TV show or whatever. It's strange, But the music business has always been evolving. That's one thing about the music business is when you look at its history and the history of recording, it is a history of evolution.
And like, let's say for songwriting today compared to when you guys were making albums, on a regular basis, the approachment of going to a song did it change at all?
Well, I will say this, that we did have some radio play, and that will obviously color things when you're writing or recording or whatever, where you're thinking, could this be played on the radio? I find that to not consider that is actually freeing, and the idea of getting a placement. A fellow I know whose band has had a number of placements, he said to me, it's not about writing a cohesive song. It's about writing a song that's got a riff that would sound really cool. Well, they show footage of snowboarding or something like that, or a car barreling along a windy mountain road or something like that. It's in terms of having music that earns income, it seems more about just having that feeling that people can grab onto within the first few seconds of hearing it. So I suppose production and energy and all these other things kind of play into things more.
Album cover for singles, we go to a classic style jukebox type of thing. Whose idea was all this?
Chris actually designed it, our drummer. He that was a picture he'd taken last year, and it's actually an old cigarette machine, vending machine, but then he replaced the brands with our singles, and yeah, everybody thought it was really cool.
Yeah, because it's when you look at it quick, it's an interesting cover.
Yeah, because it isn't a traditional jukebox. It's a vending machine, and I think it's a really interesting idea that you could plug money into a machine and pull on the thing, and a 7-inch single would drop out the bottom.
How's the career been going on these days?
Well, good. I mean, it's certainly gone in directions that we never anticipated. When we agreed to get back together to play one show back in 2010, we never even talked about doing new material, let alone making a new album and the compilation that's come out. So there have been a lot of pleasant surprises that have sort of sprung from our willingness to do one show.
And with this, I'm sure you guys got a lot of unreleased songs that we've not heard.
There's 10 more songs, so we have a 12-song album coming out in February of next year, and that album's almost mixed, actually. I think we've got 3 mixes to go, and then that's done.
Excellent stuff. So when you go out on concerts, I'm sure merchandise is very important to get a little bit of money out of this, would you say?
Absolutely.
Because the CD sales can't possibly be as they were back in the past, correct?
Well, back in the past, we weren't allowed to sell CDs at shows because that would have been in competition with the record stores. And then that started to change about 10, 15 maybe years ago, where people would do things like they might have an exclusive release that you couldn't get in stores, or people started, when vinyl started to come back, people would travel with vinyl, or an exclusive single or whatever. And it's now come to the point where the only place a lot of people can get music is actually at a show. There aren't, like I live in a big city, and there really aren't a lot of CD stores. I know probably more record stores, vinyl stores, than CD stores.
And yeah, records are starting to come back, to life, it seems, with everybody wanting some.
No, they're great.
Oh, I love them as well. For your guitars on this upcoming album, what are you going to be playing?
I borrowed a bunch of amps from different friends of mine and stuff like that, and let's see, the usual stuff, 2 amps and stuff. I use the only amp I've got now is made by a guy in Toronto. It's a Tex amp, and that's what Jeff Tweedy's using now. And as far as guitars, I used a Jazzmaster a fair bit. I've got an SG that I used a fair bit, my Rickenbacker 12 a little bit. I didn't have like a mountain of guitars like some people do when they go in the studio. I basically rotated between those and probably the Jazzmaster more than anything. And then I've got this old Gibson acoustic that was given to me years ago in pieces. Literally, the top had been stomped on it, and I had it rebuilt a couple of times, and that seems to be my go-to.
For rebuilding it twice, what was up there?
Well, the first time we were off on our way to tour England for the first time, and or Europe, I guess it was, and a fellow in Halifax told me he was going to give me this old Gibson acoustic, and I was really excited. So right as we were about to leave for the airport, he came by with a couple of friends with his guitar case, came by our hotel, and I was, obviously quite thrilled, and I opened up the case, and I see this guitar that, like I said, somebody had clearly stepped on it. There were no strings on it, and the top was smashed in. And I went, oh, okay, well, thanks. And then we went to England, and we had a few days before we started our tour, so I called a guitar shop in London and brought it in to be repaired, and the guy said, yeah, well, this will take, it'll take 6 weeks, which, I was stunned at. I was hoping to have it the next day sort of thing. I had no idea at that point. So we did the tour, and at the end of the tour, I came back and I went to the shop and picked it up. And I subsequently found out that the guy who had done the work on it used to be Eric Clapton's guitar tech, and has actually been thanked on Eric Clapton's records in the 70s and 80s. At any rate, but I don't remember his name. And then there were other issues with the guitar, so I had a fellow in White Rock work on it, and then I had another guy in Vancouver work on it at different points. One of the things with the guitar is it's asymmetrically braced as it's a Gibson J50, so that's how they are. But they braced it. I don't know who did this, but they braced it backward. They braced it as though it was a left-handed guitar rather than a right-handed guitar. So the guitar does sound unlike any other J45 or J50. So it was kind of a happy accident.
And it makes it a unique guitar and very well worth, going through all that effort, it seems.
Yeah, well, that was it. I just kind of went, well, I've got this thing, and yeah, it's just fabulous. I haven't played another acoustic guitar that I connect with like this one.
Kevin Kane, it's been a pleasure talking to you about the upcoming singles album that we're going to see, the compilation, and with the new tracks, and you're going to be on a Canadian tour. That's great.
Yeah, and like I said, in the new year, lots more shows.
Excellent stuff. Well, you have a great week, and talk to you in the future.
Thank you. Okay, we'll talk soon.